Conversations from the front lines of recruiting. This is Hireside Chats. Join us as we delve into the world of recruitment and explore the latest trends, challenges, opportunities, and insights from the best in the business. Get inspired by industry veterans and discover the secrets to building powerful talent functions from their experiences. Whether you're a CEO, a seasoned HR professional, a growing business looking to scale, or someone just starting in the field, there's something for everyone. Ready for the ultimate recruitment power-up? Let's go!
Hello, this is your host SatJ, and welcome to another episode of Hireside Chats, a Diamondpick exclusive podcast that brings together insights, news, and views from the front lines of recruiting. Listen as we discuss a timely, relevant, and an important topic for today's workforce. Most of the world's population spends 1/3 of their lives at work. When work is fulfilling, you feel engaged, valued, and productive. When work is stressful, you feel anxious, stressed, or even depressed. The pandemic took a heavy toll on the global psyche, with almost 1 billion people having reported anxiety, stress, or depression. 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness each year, which means that either you or someone you know has been impacted. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it has never been more important than now to recognize that mental health can affect anyone. We need to normalize mental health conversations and create workplace environments that are psychologically safe and supportive. Through this podcast, we want to amplify the message that all people, no matter where they are on their mental health journey, are deserving of support, resources, fulfillment, and a community that cares.
In this episode, I'm glad to welcome Dr. Srividhya, Professor, Head Psychologist, Behavioral Therapist, and a Transformational Coach at Myndwell, and a Senior Consultant Psychologist at Mindscape Counseling.
Dr. Srividhya will help us clarify the big questions that surround mental health and provide actionable insights for us on a professional level to confront the stigma surrounding this topic and how to prioritize mental health in the workplace. Dr. Srividhya is a passionate and influential academician, counselor, speaker, and an entrepreneur. Instrumental in formulating the framework for many successful psychology programs at corporates, NGOs, colleges, and more. Her years of expertise in mental health care, human behavior, counseling, and numerous certifications keep her ahead of the latest developments and the demands of the changing times. She is an integral part of the first cohort of women entrepreneurs trained by NCW in partnership with the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, to create a one-of-its-kind product, AI for mental health to prevent suicides. Hello, Dr. Vidya, and welcome to Hireside Chats.
Yeah, thanks, Satish. It's great to be here, and thanks for the wonderful introduction.
Mental health in the workplace, it is at the top of everyone's mind. It is estimated that 264 million people are affected by mental health globally. The pandemic, the lockdown, and other disruptions that came with it have made the mental health situation more acute. The pandemic was the most traumatic event that most of us have lived through, and post-pandemic is not any better. A study by McKinsey found that 1 of every 3 employees say their return to the workplace has had a negative impact on their mental health. Many are feeling anxious, stressed, or depressed. And those working hybrid or remotely feel isolated or are experiencing some form of burnout. So, Doctor, we have transitioned from the great resignation to the great exhaustion phase. So, what according to you has led to this phenomenon and what can we do about it?
Well, Satish, organizations at large were earlier concerned about employees quitting in mass numbers, while the real setback being great exhaustion truly. It's because people are largely overwhelmed that they feel often empty. Factors could range from structural issues around pay, gender biases, disrespect at work, unprecedented levels of unpaid work, lower incomes to higher stress levels, and worse mental health in general. So it's a constant internal battle, and this is largely prominent in women, unfortunately. They lack the motivation than their male counterparts, extremely fatigued. So these are the red flags. So a large focus on mental health has to be the top priority for the organizations.
And doctor, in your opinion, how much does the hybrid work environment contribute to burnout, stress, or anxiety?
Initially, there was a feeling that hybrid would be the best of both the worlds. Everybody were looking forward for that. But unfortunately, optimism among workers soon gave way to fatigue. In a hybrid work environment, they got two workplaces to maintain, one in the office and one at home. It involves a lot of planning and stop-start routine, taking the laptop to office every day and remembering where they have placed the important things. So it's the psychological shift, the change of setting every day, and that was so tiring. So this constant feeling of never being settled, that becomes stressed, and the productive home working always being disrupted. Employees also felt that difficulty switching off from work and struggling to adapt to hybrid. And the major factor was the permeable boundaries between the home and the work. Employees end up with a working week they have no control over. It's like the fixed full-time office, which just happens to be in the worker's home twice a week. And also hybrid work comes with a greater risk of digital presentism compared to fully remote jobs, which imply like the employer trust from the get-go. If an employer sets up the hybrid without trusting their workforce, it's again a total overwhelming feeling. Workers feel pressure to show their boss they are not taking advantage of home working. So that could also lead to overwork and burnout. So the effects of which could be devastating, but take a long time to even show up. So even after working for long hours, the employer feels like the employer hasn't done their due. Then the feelings of overwhelm is quite understandable for anybody.
Doctor, you did allude to the fact that the Indian working women face higher burnout than the global average, and this is kind of corroborated by a survey conducted by Deloitte. Another disturbing statistic states that 92% of women reported menopausal symptoms, and that affected them at work, and many experience increased stress at various stages of their lives. Women at the peak of their careers often receive no support because people just don't understand this aspect, and hence they suffer a lot of emotional trauma, sometimes leading them to quit. So what do you think, doctor, are some of the ways all of us can support mental health women?
See, women face unique mental health challenges and may experience mental illness differently than their male co-workers. So the list of challenges affecting women is so long. For one, women are prone to certain diagnoses. They are twice as likely as men to experience depression. And also, apart from that, pay inequity, caregiving responsibility, and biases at workplace are among the most contributing risk factors to common mental health condition. And also not overlooking on infertility and postpartum depression, that also affects many women. Physical and emotional caregiving roles such as daughters, mothers, colleagues, and even leaders result in heavier burdens. Then there's being underrepresented in leadership at work, juggling parental leave and also having office housekeeping roles. So many of these challenges are largely invisible since women may be reluctant to discuss them at all, much less at work. Add these up, it's no surprise that gender adds another layer of complexity to workplace mental health. The structures and systems of most companies were built with men in mind. I believe, I'm pretty sure that you will be agreeing to this. So many women may not be inclined to disclosing a mental health challenge. So for women audience, if they are listening to this, I would want to tell you, if you are a woman struggling with your mental health at work, or if you're a leader who wants to create that mentally healthy environment for your female employees, I would really love to give you some recommendations here. So reflect on your needs. First, think through the nature of your mental health and your specific challenge. Is it chronic, episodic, or a one-time event? Consider the contributing factors. Are they work-related or limited to your personal life? Is there a gender-specific component like childcare or workplace discrimination? So that might make you more reluctant to discuss the problem at work. Be clear about the effects. Is your mental health challenge affecting your work performance? And also find allies and safe spaces. See, allies can help you see that mental health challenges can be useful for developing workplace strengths. Combined with added difficulty of navigating gender at work, allies can teach you empathy and resilience. They can also spur creativity and can fuel your ambition. It's like, you can also talk to your manager. If you need accommodations for your mental health or have suggestions that could benefit everyone, talk to your manager. Power dynamics are at play, sometimes made more pronounced by gender. So you may fear putting already hard to come by promotion in jeopardy, or bothering yourself with a mental health challenge. But then you have to really open up. Evaluate the culture. So you shouldn't have to jeopardize your mental health to earn a living. Fortunately, companies are realizing that more and more as employee priorities around mental health play out through recruitment and retention. So it's okay to walk away from work if that isn't working. So there was one mental health at workplace report. They felt like more than 50% of people quit citing reasons for mental health. And that's a very good move when they feel their mental health is a priority. And leaders should always support women's mental health. Unless we are in positions of power, there is only so much that an individual woman can do to advocate for our mental health. So leaders must rectify structural issues that harm women, such as pay inequity, insufficient parental leaves, and lack of consequences for microaggressions or harassment. And last but not the least, I would want to include even foster inclusive flexibility. Try to incorporate it in the policies and practices. Every woman and every individual will need something different, be it remote work or flexible hours. So be sure to revisit this with your direct reports, since shifts happen over time and with life changes. So reorienting to support women's mental health at work will ultimately benefit everyone, no matter whether it's a new dad who want to be more involved parents to Gen Zs who are expecting flexibility by default. Hopefully, there will come a time when we won't have to separate out the needs of a woman, but instead will have achieved true culture, change, and inclusion.
Thanks, Doctor. Those were very valuable suggestions. I recently read a Microsoft Work Trend Index study that shows that at 29%, India has the second highest number of employees dealing with corporate burnout. 8 out of 10 workers with a mental health condition say shame and stigma prevent them from seeking help. The biggest hurdle standing in the way of people getting help for their mental health issues is the surrounding stigma. And I think you also pointed out to that and how important it is for leaders to step up and recognize the stigma that is surrounding these issues. And while companies have started to advocate for mental health in the past few years, the culture still have subtle cues of prejudice that make it difficult for workers to truly open up and get help. So, in such a situation, what, according to you, must organizations do to destigmatize mental health and normalize conversations around it at work, Doctor?
See, I would really recommend that organizations must create an environment that normalizes open conversations around mental health. It must start at the top with leadership taking the first step and being transparent and honest about their own struggles. It's not like nobody is immune to this. Everybody is prone to at some point or the other. If a leader can discuss about his diabetes or hypertension, why not speak about psychological disturbances, if any? If leadership doesn't model this behavior, employees will likely hide any issues of their own in an effort to mimic their superiors naturally. So leading with empathy and listening when employees are low is essential to creating shifts within a company's culture. That change alone can make an impact on how mental health is seen and addressed in the workplace. So some employees would be more likely to seek mental health support if there were more open conversations on the topic in their workplace. And humanizing yourself shows employees that they're not alone in the process and that others have also been through similar struggles. So this goes a long way toward removing the shame or the stigma. So through transparent and honest communication, employees who feel uncomfortable with mental health can see themselves through others' experiences, which can be comforting and healing. So kindly join hands to break the stigma and seek effective treatments to live productive and fulfilling lives.
Thank you, Doc. And can you share some good examples of what other organizations are currently doing to provide the best mental health programs for the employees? I know in your organization you work with several corporates and you've been giving these best in class mental health programs for their employees. So some examples of what organizations are doing will benefit our viewers, Doctor.
Few organizations adopted creating mental health ambassadors within the organization. They run support groups, run regular group sessions on those topics which are brushed under the carpet, feeling like they're not so comfortable ones to talk about, fearing stigma around. And also peer support is a powerful lever to reduce stigma as well. You can incorporate mind-body sessions at work that will be very fruitful and calming for both body and mind. Such sessions give them mental clarity and also body awareness and sharpen their concentration. So the entire organization is engaged They will engage themselves for a cause. That particular cause will come into the limelight. In this case, that is the mental health as a whole. So keeping employees happy while making them aware of mental health molds them to mentally and physically healthy individuals. So I think organizations have to not have a second thought about it, but immediately start incorporating this.
Right. Data from the World Health Organization has estimated that 12 billion working days are lost every year due to depression or anxiety alone. And this is costing the global economy almost $1 trillion. Organizations are trying to deal with symptoms of great exhaustion and anxiety by switching to 4-day week, offering mental health support, introducing mental health days, and so on. But these measures are often tokenistic rather than things that lead to real change. So, Doctor, almost all organizations today, while they have an EAP or an employee assistance program in place, how do we take these programs up a notch to make them all work for us? See, we even have those at Diamondpick, and we see less than 5% utilization for our own EAP program. So, how do we make these EAP programs work for all of us?
See, as I said, you said even your organization is within that 3 to 5% less in that bracket. It's because, Hannes, as a leader, how many of your leaders really take up sessions in front of their peer group? And most of the organizations, it's like tick in the box. It's not in the real sense. So the current challenge is, though organizations are implementing mental well-being program for their employees, a lot more promotions from the organizations have to be formulated to create more holistic growth and development. Employee well-being programs are beneficial to both the employer and employees, as happier people can really contribute to more enhanced performances holistically. So promotion of mental health in the workplace is all the more relevant in the context of a nearly universal market economy in which the pace of economic activities is fast, contractual relationships start and terminate at short notice, and international competition is intensified. While globalization has opened up new opportunities for powerful and dynamic development and growth of the world economy, but it does not benefit every person or region in the world equally. So the key elements that globalization has brought are increasing automation, rapid implementation, IT, and the need for more flexible and responsive work method. So workers worldwide confront as never before an array of new organizational structures and processes which can affect their mental health.
So these include the typical layoffs, mergers, downsizing, contingent employment, and increased workload. So to guarantee the best result
in international competition. So it is the interest of the employers to provide their employees with decent working condition. And culture change requires both a top-down and bottom-up approach to succeed. So workplace mental health is no different. And to create a mentally healthy ecosystem has to be prioritized with all the stakeholders. I know for most of the people, mental health is fashionable right now and every company wants to jump in. But do you realize that something like this needs a long-term commitment even from the employer as well? It's not only from the organizations who are partnered with them for mental health services. Organizations do show interest, but then it takes a backseat as a least priority. If there is a cost cutting, the first thing to cut down or limit the budget is only for the wellness programs. So if they could see it in a different perspective, EAP services will really be successful in any organizations.
No, I agree with you. And I think from EAP being a good to have to a must have is something that needs to happen for mental wellness to truly take off at workplaces. And also, Doctor, there's a sudden emergence of several mental health apps, and many mental health experts are out there. Today, pretty much everybody gives gyan on mental health, and all they need is, a social media page or a tool to advocate mental wellness. How useful do you think these are, and what is your take on the emergence of such health apps?
See, truly, technology has definitely taken the mental health industry by storm during COVID and post-COVID now. So for those who cannot work with the mental health professional because of a lack of time or resources or accessibility, mental health apps do have some advantages and they do come handy. So at the very best, they can provide with some sort of guidance or support, not denying that, which is better than nothing. At least something is there to start with. Even more promising, they can at least help remove the barriers and stigma surrounding mental health. It's good somebody is trying to approach, at least for instant relief, like a band-aid approach. Like if you suddenly have a high temperature or a cold, you try to self-medicate. But if it persists, you opt to go to the physician. So it is similar to that. You can use these apps, there's no doubt in it, but It is definitely not a replacement for the traditional therapy, and it is definitely not a substitute. Another concern is understanding if apps work for all kinds of people. You know, if you just Google it, you will be able to get so many stress relief techniques. But is that the one I'm looking for? Will that work for me? Okay, so that depends on individual to individual and what are the core issues they are struggling with. And apart from this, what kind of team, what is the experience, what is the expertise they have in the back end? So even that is also a concern. So definitely, I say it comes handy, but then it is not a substitute.
Like you mentioned, mental health can affect anyone, and we all need some help and guidance to self care. And we did discuss about, at least at a superficial level, or to begin with, some self care is not bad. But can you share some practical tips for our listeners on managing our mental health?
See, like how you clean up your desk or you clean up your room every day. Similarly, you have to clean up the space, whatever you've accumulated throughout the day. I usually say like mind recharge and mind detox. So every day morning when you wake up and, recharge your mind and find a purpose, what is there to look forward for the day. And when you go to bed in the night, detox your mind. That is very, very important because most of the thoughts are recurring thoughts and 80% recurring. So it is better you detox your mind before going to bed so that you don't carry unnecessary, unwanted, unpleasant things for the next day if you are looking forward for a fresh new day. So detox is typically you reflect on yourself, whatever has happened throughout the day, and allow what has to be stored in your memory and what has to be discarded. In this way, if you start practicing, I believe you're not going to take all those unwanted things into your memory and you'll be free of those racing thoughts.
And how can one self diagnose? How do we know if we are silently suffering from some mental health issue? Is there some tips that you can share with us on that, Doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. See, look for changes in your appetite. Either people overeat or undereat, and also look for your sleeping patterns. Are you suddenly trying to withdraw from people or any frequent outbursts? What are the racing thoughts, whether it is recurrent, whether it is positive or negative? And you'll also have that constant restlessness, fatigue, new habit formation. Most of when people get into those unhealthy habits as coping mechanism, getting into substance and faking emotion as though they don't want to reveal. So they show up like everything is fine with me, but then they are internally struggling due to stigma. They also get disoriented, emotional numbness. So these are certain warning signs you can check on yourself.
I just want to talk a little bit about how can we create a psychologically great workplace. Doctor, according to a recent study by Google, the secret behind high performing employees is psychological safety at the workplace. However, lack of awareness of the full range of employee mental health experience is one of the biggest challenges that keep organizations from offering the best support in times of need. So, how do you make our organizations a safe space? And you did discuss this at the beginning of this conversation. And how do you think employees at all levels can communicate openly without fear or discrimination? And how important is the leadership role in creating a safe space?
Given the stigma often associated with mental health challenge, finding a safe space to tell your story and receive support from allies is a critical step. So when we say psychologically safe space, it is an absence of interpersonal fear. I'm not being judged by people around. When psychological safety is present, people are able to speak up with work relevant content. When you create a psychologically safe work environment, your employees are more likely to feel a sense of belonging. Moreover, such environments often result in positive and supportive work culture by creating an open, appreciative, supportive, and accepting work environment. Like we are sending a message that everybody are cared, we are caring about the people. So this can lead to increased job satisfaction and lower turnout rates as well. So organizations have to train leaders, managers, and all employees on how to navigate mental health at work, have difficult conversations, and create supportive workplaces. So managers are often the first in line in noticing changes and supporting the direct reports. Building an environment of psychological safety is key. Mental health policies, practices, and culturally competent benefits and other resources must be put in place and also sometimes over communicated. So create a psychologically safe place to work. For that, I would just tell 4 steps. Stop seeing mental health as a productivity issue. Mental health is a human concern and not a productivity issue. And number two is stop talking about mental illness as a burden. It is everybody's responsibility. And number three is employers need to end for talent. When we talk about inclusion, it's not about talent anymore. So number four is treat mental health as an inalienable human right. Everybody has a right to live happily.
Got it. And how do you think we can encourage more diversity within the mental health area, Doc?
So when we talk about diversity, though we recruit people from diverse backgrounds, the next step is inclusion. Is all about making sure everyone feels welcome, valued, respected, regardless of their background, experiences, or ability. I feel I'm in a non-judgmental environment. It's about embracing our unique differences and allowing them to enrich our life and workplaces. To compete for talent, companies will have to make changes as younger generations are increasingly prioritizing their mental health and the work cultures that support. So foster that sense of belonging. So you have to be open-minded and curious. Be curious to learn from one another, share stories and ask questions. That's how we grow. And listen actively. It's important to hear what others have to say, validate their experiences and empathize with their feelings. Encourage diversity. A diverse group bring fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and promote creative problem solving. Be an ally, as I've been advocating this right from the beginning. Stand up for others, even if they're not in the room. We are all in this together. So remember, when we create an inclusive environment, we are not only making our workplaces better, we are also making the world a more beautiful, accepting place for everybody to live.
Got it. So, Doctor, now it's time for our customary rapid fire round that brings out some very candid responses. And I'll request you to speak your mind, keep your sentences as short as possible, but, make them hard hitting. We are open to taking it. So to start with, my first question to you is, what is the biggest misconception about mental health?
Yeah, when somebody comes up and tells like, I have an issue, they are viewed as lunatic who needs an institutionalized care. They don't see them as normal human beings.
Correct. And what is one of the biggest reasons for mental health issues today?
A thing comes to my mind now, where there is too much, something is missing. The typical problem issue today is the flip side abundance mindset. The millennial anxieties that are spoiled for choices today, and that is the main issue.
And one mental health mantra that all of us should implement.
It's okay to be not okay. Not necessarily I have to be okay all the time. It's okay to be not okay.
Well said. And how do you personally cope with tough times, Doctor?
As I said, mind recharge and detox. I'm a mindfulness practitioner. So I quickly resolve things and don't carry it to the next day.
Okay. And what is your best self-care tip?
Self-love. Allocate time for yourself unconditionally, no matter what.
And finally, can you think of a conversation that changed someone's life? And do you think it's worth sharing in this forum?
See, typically, I always lead my clients inside out, leading them through the journey of introspection. There have been many people who had come up with suicidal thoughts and who had come with many attempts. And finally, they felt like they have to talk to me. And this journey of introspection had changed their whole perspective. And they felt life is so beautiful. Just because of one rejection or one job loss, I don't afford to lose, but I can still conquer and lead a better life.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Doctor. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you, Dr. Srividhya, for sharing with us your expert advice, practical insights, and a personalized action strategy to ensure that organizations and workforces can work together to combat mental health issues and thrive from the inside out. And to all those who tuned in, thank you for listening to Hireside Chats. Remember, it's okay not to be okay, and that seeking help is a sign of strength. Join us next time for another episode as we bring you the latest and the best from the recruitment world. Don't miss a single episode and subscribe to Hireside Chats today. Don't forget to leave a review and share on your socials to help us reach as many ears as possible. So until next time, take care of yourself and keep working on your mental gain.